Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2873 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom Trek is The Song of Ascent, the Enthronement of the Ark on the Holy Mountain. In our previous episode on this grand expedition, we stepped on to the 13th ridge of our 15-part pilgrim journey through the Songs of Ascents. We explored the opening section of Psalm 132, verses 1 through 5. We witnessed the unyielding, sleepless passion of King David. Even though he had a quiet, weaned soul within himself, he refused to enjoy the private luxury of his cedar palace, while the Ark of the Covenant remained neglected in a temporary tent. We examined his solemn vow to the Mighty One of Jacob, a vow of deliberate restlessness where he refused to sleep until he found a permanent, sacred space, a cosmic embassy, where the true King of heaven and earth could establish his earthly footstool. Today, we take our next historic step forward, continuing directly from that narrative. We are entering into the second movement of this grand processional anthem, exploring Psalm 132, verses 6 through 12, in the New Living Translation. The psalmist shifts our focus from David's private, intense vow to the corporate, joyful experience of the entire nation as they actually locate, recover, and march with the symbol of God's presence up the mountain. Let us step onto the rugged trail, join the ancient procession, and watch the divine warrior ascend his throne. The first segment is the discovery and the procession to the footstool. Psalm 132, verses 6 and 7. We heard that the ark was in Ephrathah. Then we found it in the distant countryside of Jar. Let us go to the sanctuary of the Lord. Let us worship at the footstool of his throne. The narrative transitions from David's intense, singular obsession to the collective voice of the Israelite community, singing together on the road to Jerusalem. We heard that the ark was in Ephrathah. Then we found it in the distant countryside of Jar. To fully appreciate the deep emotional relief embedded in these two names, Ephrathah and Jar, we must recall the tragic historical backstory. Decades earlier, during the chaotic days of Eli the priest, the Israelites had foolishly treated the Ark of the Covenant like a magical good luck charm, dragging it onto the battlefield against the Philistines. The rebel spiritual forces operating behind the Philistine armies achieved a temporary mocking victory. The ark was captured, and the glory of God seemed to depart from Israel. Even after the Philistines returned the ark, due to divine plagues, it sat neglected, stashed away in the obscure, overgrown, and wooded fields of Kiriath Jearim, which the psalmist poetically calls the distant countryside of Jar. It was hidden in the brush, largely forgotten by the general public, while the nation drifted spiritually. But David mobilized the nation. The pilgrims recount the great rally. Let us go to the sanctuary of the Lord. Let us worship at the footstool of his throne. We must view this through the profound lens of the ancient Israelite Divine Council worldview as masterfully taught by Dr. Michael S. Heiser. In the ancient Near East, a supreme monarch sat on a high, elevated throne, and his feet rested upon a beautifully crafted footstool. The footstool was the critical point of contact where the heavenly, royal realm physically touched the lower, earthly domain. In cosmic geography, the Ark of the Covenant, positioned inside the Holy of Holies beneath the outstretched wings of the golden cherubim, was recognized as the literal footstool of Yahweh's heavenly throne room. When the pilgrims say, "Let us worship at the footstool of his throne," they are not merely engaging in formal temple rituals. They are entering the earthly embassy of the supreme commander of the cosmos. They are stepping into the direct presence of the High King, joining the heavenly assembly of loyal angels, and declaring that Yahweh's authority completely eclipses the claims of the rebel spiritual principalities who rule over the surrounding disinherited nations. The second segment is the divine warrior takes his seat. Psalm 132, verses 8 through 10. Arise, O Lord, and enter your resting place, along with the ark, the symbol of your power. May your priests be clothed in godliness. May your loyal servants sing for joy. For the sake of your servant David, do not reject the king you have anointed. The procession reaches its absolute climax as the ark is physically carried up the slopes of Mount Zion. The king and the priests raise a dramatic liturgical shout to the heavens. Arise, O Lord, and enter your resting place, along with the ark, the symbol of your power. This phrase, Arise, O Lord, is a direct, intentional echo of the ancient wilderness battle cry recorded in Numbers chapter 10. Whenever the Ark of the Covenant set out from the camp to lead the tribes through the desert, Moses would stand and shout, Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. It was the invocation of Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts, the commander of the heavenly armies. But notice the fascinating, beautiful shift in Psalm 132. The divine warrior is no longer marching out to do battle in the wilderness. He is marching in to take his seat. He is entering his resting place. In the Deuteronomy 32 framework, the rebel gods claimed ownership over the nations, but Yahweh has chosen Zion as his permanent, centralized cosmic mountain. By placing the ark, the symbol of his power, on Mount Zion, Yahweh is establishing an unshakable, eternal fortress. The warfare is completed. The king is officially taking his seat on the throne. This supreme cosmic installation requires an entirely transformed community to serve the king. Verse 9 petitions, May your priests be clothed in godliness. May your loyal servants sing for joy. The priests, who act as the human mediators between the heavenly council and the earthly congregation, must not wear the corrupt, manipulative garments of the pagan fertility cults. They must be literally wrapped, clothed, and saturated in ascetic, true, uncompromised godliness and righteousness. When the leadership is holy, the entire community flourishes. The loyal servants, the Hasidim, the covenant-keeping exiles, break out into uninhibited, roaring songs of joy. Their worship becomes a defensive shield, keeping the chaos of the world outside the walls of the sanctuary. The processional prayer concludes with a crucial plea for the continuation of the dynasty. For the sake of your servant David, do not reject the king you have anointed. The human king, the Mashiach, the anointed one, serves a vital function in the divine council worldview. He is designated as Yahweh's earthly vice-regent. He is the human representative who executes the justice and the cosmic order of the high king within the physical realm. The pilgrims pray that God will look at the faithful, historical sacrifices of David and refuse to reject the current, fragile human king who sits on David's throne. They need the line of the vice-regent to remain unbroken so that the connection to the cosmic mountain remains secure. The third segment is the reciprocal oath of eternity. Psalm 132, verses 11 and 12. The Lord swore an oath to David, with a promise he will never take back. I will place one of your descendants on your throne. If your descendants obey the terms of my covenant and the laws that I teach them, then your royal line will continue forever and ever. In the final section of today's trail, the direction of the song flips completely. The pilgrims have finished speaking to God, and now Yahweh speaks back to the pilgrims. He responds to David's historic, restless vow with a massive, unyielding oath of his own. The Lord swore an oath to David with a promise he will never take back. I will place one of your descendants on your throne. This is the beautiful, reciprocal irony of the Davidic covenant. In the first 5 verses of this psalm, David was anxiously losing sleep, desperately trying to build a physical house made of stone and cedar for Yahweh. But God steps in and essentially says, David, you cannot build a house to contain me. Instead, I am going to build an eternal house, a royal dynasty for you. The king of the cosmos binds himself to a human family line with an unbreakable, sovereign promise that can never be revoked by the machinations of the rebel gods or the collapse of human empires. But then, verse 12 introduces a sharp, heavy, and conditional element to the timeline. If your descendants obey the terms of my covenant and the laws that I teach them, then your royal line will continue forever and ever. Here, we witness the intersection of God's unconditional cosmic decree and human responsibility. The individual, human kings who followed David had to remain actively aligned with the cosmic blueprint. If they chose to copy the corrupt, oppressive practices of the pagan nations, if they bowed to the idols of the territorial Elohim, they would face severe, historical judgment. The scepter would be broken, the city would be besieged, and the dynasty would suffer. As we look back at the history of Israel, we know that human kings failed miserably. They violated the covenant, they ignored the laws, and the royal line appeared to be completely extinguished during the dark days of the Babylonian exile. It looked like the rebel principalities had won the legal battle in the cosmic courtroom. But the oath of Yahweh cannot be defeated by human failure. The conditional failure of David's earthly descendants merely cleared the stage for the ultimate, unconditional fulfillment of the promise. Centuries later, a final, perfect descendant was born into the line of David. Jesus the Messiah, the true Mashiach, arrived. He did not fail the covenant. He fulfilled it perfectly. He took the laws of the Father and lived them out with flawless obedience. When Jesus ascended into heaven, he didn't just sit on a temporary earthly throne in Jerusalem. He sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high. He took his seat as the ultimate, supreme vice-regent of the divine council, stripping the rebel principalities of their final authority and ensuring that David's royal line will literally continue to rule the entire cosmos forever and ever. The fourth segment is aligning our lives with the true vice-regent. Psalm 132, verses 6 through 12, provides us with a magnificent panoramic view of God's unyielding faithfulness to his promises. It teaches us that even when the presence and the truth of God seem to be hidden away, neglected in the distant, overgrown countryside of a compromised culture, the Lord is actively preparing a spectacular comeback. The divine warrior will eventually arise, scatter his enemies, and take his rightful seat on the throne of reality. As you walk your trek today, remember that you are a citizen of an eternal, unshakable kingdom. You do not need to be intimidated by the powerful, arrogant systems of this world or the dark spiritual forces that influence them. They are fighting a losing war. Your king, the ultimate descendant of David, has already secured the throne of eternity. Adopt the posture of the worshiping pilgrims. Clothe yourself in the godliness and righteousness provided by your advocate, and let your life be a continuous, joyful song that pushes back the chaos of the culture. Trust in the absolute certainty of God's unbreakable oaths. Stand firm in your covenant loyalty, knowing that your footsteps are guided by the true vice-regent, and that your legacy is securely anchored to the cosmic mountain that will stand forever and ever. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and, most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.